Let's start with one of the most powerful rewiring shifts you can make. Moving from limitation to possibility. See, our brains are wired for survival, not success. That ancient part of your brain, the amygdala, is constantly scanning for danger. It's the part that says, play it safe, stay small, don't take the risk. It wants you to survive, not thrive. And here's the thing, it doesn't know the difference between the fear of being chased by a tiger and the fear of public speaking, launching your business, or asking for that promotion. It treats them the same. Danger is danger. So how do we break free from that default wiring? Let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, a young woman sat in the audience of a leadership seminar. She was smart, driven, but full of self-doubt. She wanted to start a company, but every thought she had began with, what if I fail? Or I'm not good enough? Or there are already too many people doing this? And those thoughts weren't just thoughts, they were cement walls, invisible but real. She was trapped in a mental box she didn't even know she was building, until one question changed everything. What if you're wrong about your limits? That question cracked something open. She started to notice how many times she said, I can't, often out of habit, not truth. She began replacing I can't with how can I. She stopped saying I don't know enough and started saying I'm still learning. She caught herself labeling things as impossible and started asking, what if it's just unfamiliar? Her language changed, and so did her brain. That woman didn't suddenly become fearless, but she became curious. And that curiosity is what led her to take her first step, and then the next, and eventually she did launch her business. Not perfectly, not without fear, but she moved forward. And that's the shift we're talking about today. From limitation to possibility. From I've never done that to maybe I could. From that's not me to what if it could be. Because every time you stretch your thinking, every time you catch a limiting belief and choose to challenge it, you are rewiring your brain. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your actions, and your actions, they shape your reality. So the next time your brain serves up a limitation, I want you to pause and ask, is this a fact or is this just a habit? Because often what we think is a wall is really just a shadow. And when you shine the light of possibility on it, you'll see it for what it really is, a choice, a challenge, a chance to grow. Let your mind be a garden of possibility, not a cage of fear. And remember, if your mind can create limits, it can also tear them down. Now let's talk about another fundamental shift in rewiring your brain. Moving from reaction to intention. We live in a world of speed. Notifications buzz, people interrupt, challenges pop up like whack-a-moles. And what do most of us do? We react instantly, automatically. That's not necessarily a flaw. It's how the brain is built. Our subconscious mind handles nearly 95% of our behavior. That means most of our reactions, the snapping, the scrolling, the self-sabotage, don't come from deliberate choice. They come from conditioned responses, old programming. Think about it. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment and thought, why did I even say that? Or made a decision out of fear, impulse, or frustration and later regretted it? That's reaction. That's autopilot. And when your life is run on autopilot, guess what? You don't end up where you want to go. You end up where your habits take you. But here's the empowering truth. You can interrupt that pattern. You can pause. You can choose. Let me paint a picture. Imagine your brain as a highway system. The more you react a certain way, the more you reinforce a neural pathway. It becomes a mental express lane, fast, automatic, familiar. So when someone criticizes you and you instantly get defensive, that's a well-worn road. When you procrastinate, the moment something feels uncomfortable, that's another paved route. When you say yes to everything because you fear disappointing people, that's yet another. But here's the beautiful part about neuroplasticity. You can build new roads. You can say, hold on, instead of reacting, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to get curious. I'm going to respond with intention. Let me share a personal moment. There was a man, mid-level manager, sharp, respected, but known for one thing, a short fuse. Pressure would rise and boom, his temper would flare. Emails got snappy, meetings got tense. He wasn't a bad guy, but his reactions were driving people away, and he knew it. He started doing one simple thing. Every time he felt triggered, he paused for 5 seconds. That's it. That 5-second window created space. And in that space, he asked himself a powerful question. Is this reaction aligned with the person I want to be? Sometimes he still got it wrong, but slowly the default began to change. He became calmer. He started responding instead of exploding. His team noticed, his family noticed. Why? Because he stopped letting his emotional reflexes run the show. He stepped out of reaction and into intention. When you live with intention, you stop being a slave to circumstance. You become the author of your choices, not just a character in a script someone else wrote. So how do you practice intention in real time? Create mental checkpoints. Before responding to a text, an email, or a difficult conversation, pause, ask, what outcome do I actually want here? Breathe before you speak. A single breath shifts activity from the amygdala, fear center, to the prefrontal cortex, logic and planning. Visualize your best self. Ask, what would the strongest version of me do in this moment? These tiny moments of intention become massive over time. Like drops of water, they add up. They carve new patterns. They reshape the brain. You may not control every challenge that comes your way, but you can always control how you show up for it. Reaction is fast. Intention is powerful. Reaction is survival. Intention is leadership. And every time you choose intention over impulse, you rewire your brain and redesign your future. Let's move to one of the most crucial and misunderstood rewiring shifts from distraction to discipline. Now more than ever, your ability to focus is under attack. Think about it. Your phone is vibrating, your inbox is filling, the algorithm is calling your name with endless scrolls of dopamine. The modern world is a battlefield for your attention, and make no mistake, if you don't intentionally control it, someone else will. You see, distraction is not just about being unfocused, it's about being constantly pulled in directions that serve everyone but you. And here's the truth, most people won't say out loud, it's not a time problem. It's a discipline problem, and at its root, it's a wiring problem. Let's take a step back and look at how the brain plays into this. Your brain is designed to seek novelty. Every time you check your phone, scroll a feed, or bounce from task to task, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine. It feels productive, it feels stimulating, but it's a trap. because that dopamine is addictive. It wires your brain to crave chaos, to prefer quick hits over deep work, to choose easy over essential. That's where discipline comes in. Now, I'm not talking about the old school white-knuckle version of discipline, the kind that feels like punishment. I'm talking about empowered discipline, the kind that says, I choose what matters most. I train my focus like an athlete trains their body. I protect my attention like it's sacred. Let me tell you about a writer I once met. She was wildly talented, deeply passionate, but her progress was painfully slow. Every time she sat down to write, she'd check her phone, open another tab, get up for coffee, fold laundry, anything but write. She kept telling herself she had focus issues, that she was just easily distracted. But one day, a mentor told her something that changed her wiring. You're not distracted, you're uncommitted to structure. That hit hard because it revealed the truth. She was waiting to feel focused instead of creating systems that build focus. She began small, no grand transformation overnight. She started writing in 25-minute blocks with her phone in another room. She set one clear goal each morning. She stopped multitasking. It was uncomfortable at first, but slowly her brain adapted. The mental clutter began to quiet, her creativity deepened, her results multiplied. That's the power of rewiring from distraction to discipline. It's not about being perfect, it's about being deliberate. Discipline doesn't mean you never get distracted. It means you notice faster, you recover quicker. It means you create an environment that helps your brain do its best work. Here are some simple rewiring tools you can use starting today. Environment, design. Want to focus better? Design your surroundings for success. Silence notifications, clean your space. Set visual cues that anchor you to your goal. Time blocking. Your calendar should reflect your values. Block time for what matters most and honor it like you would a meeting with someone important. Because you are. Digital boundaries. Don't wait for willpower. Use apps to block distractions. Put your phone in another room. Protect your brain like it's priceless, because it is. The 5-minute rule. If you're resisting a task, commit to doing it for just 5 minutes. This tricks your brain into starting, and starting is the hardest part. Over time, discipline becomes your new default. It stops feeling like restriction and starts feeling like freedom. Because that's the paradox. Discipline doesn't cage your creativity, it unleashes it. Discipline doesn't limit your time, it gives it back to you. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. You don't need more hours in the day, you need fewer leaks in your attention. And the more you train your brain to choose discipline over distraction, the more unstoppable you become. Now that we've looked at some of the big mindset shifts, from limitation to possibility, reaction to intention, and distraction to discipline, let's get practical. Let's talk about the daily work, the stuff no one sees, the routines that may seem small, but they quietly rewire your brain one rep at a time. Because here's the truth, transformation doesn't happen in big moments. It happens in tiny habits, repeated consistently. Let's go back to the gym analogy for a second. If you want to build muscle, you don't go once, lift the heaviest weight, and expect to walk out ripped. You show up, you sweat, you struggle, and over time something shifts. Not just in your body, but in your identity. You go from someone who wants to get fit to someone who is fit. The same thing happens with your brain. Your mindset, your beliefs, your focus, your emotional responses, all of it can be rewired through intentional daily practice. It's not about perfection, it's about repetition. Let's walk through 4 of the most powerful daily practices that begin rewiring your brain for success. Starting today, 1. Gratitude journaling. Rewire your perspective. This one might sound simple, even cliche, but don't underestimate it. Every morning or evening, take 2 minutes, just 2, and write down 3 specific things you're grateful for. Not vague stuff like family or health, but specifics. The way the sunlight hit my desk while I was working today. The stranger who smiled at me on the elevator. That moment of laughter with my daughter over breakfast. Why does this work? Because your brain has a built-in negativity bias. It's constantly scanning for what's wrong, what's dangerous, what could go sideways. Gratitude flips that script. It teaches your mind to scan for what's right. It reprograms your mental filter. Over time, this changes your baseline. You don't just feel better, you perform better. You start seeing opportunities where you used to see obstacles. Gratitude doesn't erase challenges, it rewires your capacity to face them. 2. Visualization. Rewire your reality. Olympic athletes have used this for decades. Top performers in every field, business, sports, entertainment, they all visualize before they execute. Why? Because your brain doesn't fully distinguish between real experience and deep imagination. When you visualize success with vivid detail, the sounds, the colors, the emotions, you're not just fantasizing. You're training your nervous system to recognize that future as familiar. And we are biologically wired to move toward the familiar. Want to speak confidently on stage? Visualize it daily. The lights, the crowd, your steady voice, the energy. Want to lead a team or run your own business? See it. Feel it. Step into it mentally before you step into it physically. It's not magic, it's mental rehearsal. And like any practice, the more you do it, the more powerful it becomes. 3. Affirmations. Rewire your beliefs. Let's clear something up. Affirmations aren't about lying to yourself. They're about choosing the language that rewires your internal dialogue. Most of us have default affirmations, but they sound like this. I'm not good enough. I always mess this up. This will never work. That inner talk becomes the soundtrack of your life. It loops beneath the surface and shapes every decision you make. But you can change the script. Start speaking affirmations that reflect the identity you're stepping into. Say them aloud, write them down, revisit them often. I am focused. I am resilient. I am capable of doing hard things. Every day, I am becoming more of who I'm meant to be. I am not defined by my past. I am designed for growth. Over time, those words become grooves in your neural wiring, not overnight, but brick by brick. Affirmations are mental reps. Each one lays down new wiring. Each one says, this is who I am becoming. 4. Mindful moments rewire your presence. You don't need an hour-long meditation practice to rewire your mind. You need moments. Moments of mindfulness in the middle of your day. Try this. Before opening your laptop in the morning, take 1 minute. Just breathe. Between meetings, take 10 deep breaths. Before you respond to that frustrating text, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. come back to center. These tiny pauses do two powerful things. They calm your nervous system, which brings your logical brain back online. They train your awareness, which gives you the power to respond instead of react. Mindfulness isn't about zoning out. It's about zoning in to your body, to your thoughts, to this moment where all your power lives. So if you've ever wondered, how do I actually rewire my brain? The answer is you practice daily. Not because you're broken, but because you're training. Just like you train your muscles in the gym, you train your mind in life. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be consistent. If you want to rewire your brain for success, there's one shift that stands above the rest, one that sits at the very heart of transformation, from fear to empowerment. Let's talk about fear for a moment. Not just the big dramatic fear of public speaking or jumping out of a plane. I'm talking about the quiet fears, the subtle ones, the fear of being seen, the fear of failing, the fear of succeeding and not knowing how to handle it, the fear of judgment, rejection, being too much or not enough. Here's the truth. Fear is baked into your biology. It's ancient, evolutionary. It kept our ancestors alive when danger was physical, lions, cliffs, fire. But in today's world, fear has a new face. It's not the lion in the bushes. It's the email you're scared to send. It's not the cliff's edge. It's the risk of launching your idea. It's not the fire. It's the fear that your voice doesn't matter. And most of us don't realize we're not afraid of the thing itself. We're afraid of the emotion we might feel if it goes wrong, shame, embarrassment, disappointment, failure. So instead of taking the leap, we shrink, we hesitate, we self-sabotage. Not because we're weak, but because our brains are doing exactly what they're wired to do. Protect us, but here's the breakthrough moment. And is one of the most liberating things you'll ever understand. Fear isn't a stop sign, it's a signal that you're stepping into something bigger than your current wiring. See, your brain wants certainty, but growth requires uncertainty. That tension between who you are and who you're becoming, that's the stretch. That's where the magic is. So how do you move from fear to empowerment? Let me share a story. There was a young man, ambitious, smart, but terrified of public speaking. Not just nervous, crippled by it. Anytime he had to speak up in meetings, his palms would sweat, his voice would shake, his mind would blank out. He kept avoiding opportunities, watched others rise, felt smaller each time. One day a mentor said something that changed his life. What if the fear is just a sign that your voice matters? He had never considered that. He always saw fear as a flaw. But what if it was actually feedback that he was on the edge of something meaningful? So he decided to stop waiting to not feel afraid and started acting with the fear. He began small, one comment in a meeting, one short presentation, one uncomfortable but necessary conversation. Each time the fear came with him, but it got quieter. His confidence got louder. And eventually something amazing happened. He wasn't trying to get rid of the fear anymore because it had become his compass. That is empowerment. It's not the absence of fear, it's the refusal to be ruled by it. Let's get practical here. If you want to rewire your brain from fear to empowerment, try this process. 1, name the fear. Don't let it stay vague and shadowy. Bring it into the light. Is it fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being misunderstood? Write it down, speak it out. Naming the fear begins to strip it of its power. 2, flip the script. Ask, what else could this fear mean? Instead of, I'm afraid of this opportunity, try, I'm afraid because this matters. I'm afraid because I care. I'm afraid because I'm stretching. Fear is often proof that you're growing beyond your comfort zone. 3, use your body. Fear lives in the body, so shift the body to shift the brain. Stand tall, breathe deep, move with energy. Research shows that your posture, your breathing, and your movement all send signals to the brain about how safe or powerful you feel. Want to feel empowered? Move like someone who already is. 4, act anyway. This is the most important part. The brain rewires, not just through thoughts, but through action. You build courage by doing the thing scared. You build power by showing up even when you doubt. Every time you take action while afraid, you teach your brain something new. We survived. We did it. We're capable. That's how you rewire fear, not by erasing it, but by building evidence that you are bigger than it. Fear will always knock. That's its job. Empowerment is choosing who answers the door. And when you train your brain to stop seeing fear as danger and start seeing it as direction, everything changes. If there's one mental upgrade that rewires not just your success, but the way you pursue it, it's this shift right here, from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Now let's break that down, because this is not just a motivational buzzword. This is neuroscience. This is behavioral psychology. And this is the core of how your brain either limits you or liberates you. Let's start with the fixed mindset. This is the belief, often unconscious, that your intelligence, your talent, your personality are set in stone, that you're either good at something or you're not, that success is reserved for the naturals, that failure is a reflection of your worth. It sounds like, I'm just not a numbers person. I've never been good at public speaking. I'm too old to start over. I'm not the kind of person who succeeds like that. And here's the dangerous part. Fixed mindset masquerades as logic. It hides in phrases like just being realistic. But in truth, it's fear dressed up as facts. Now contrast that with a growth mindset. This is the belief that your brain is not a container, it's a muscle. It can change, it can strengthen, it can adapt. Your skills, your confidence, your intelligence, they're not fixed traits, they're trainable. It sounds like, I'm not there yet, but I can learn. This failure is feedback. I can figure this out. Every challenge is a chance to expand. Think of the difference in outcomes here. 2 people face the same challenge. One says, I can't do this. The other says, I can't do this yet. That 3-letter word, yet, is the language of growth. It signals to your brain, we're still in the game. Let me tell you a quick story. A friend of mine applied for a job she really wanted, high level, dream position. She didn't get it. For a few days, the old wiring kicked in. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Why did I even try? That's it. I blew my shot. But then she caught herself and shifted gears. She looked at the feedback from the interview. She asked better questions. She invested in a coach. She practiced mock interviews. She rewired the story from I failed to I'm training for the next level. 6 months later, she got hired for an even bigger role at a different company. Why? Not because she never fell, but because she didn't stay down. That is the power of a growth mindset. Now, let's talk about the brain science for a second. The brain's ability to rewire and reorganize itself is proof that change is always possible. When you learn a new skill, challenge a belief, or push through a setback, your brain is literally forming new neural pathways. You're not just learning, you're rewiring. And the more you embrace challenge, the faster the rewiring happens. So, how do you make this shift from fixed to growth on a daily level? 1, celebrate effort, not just outcomes. Train your brain to value the process, not just the win. Instead of asking, did I succeed today? Ask, did I stretch today? Praise yourself for trying, for showing up, for learning, because those are the seeds of long-term success. 2, replace I can't with how can I. Language rewires your brain. Every time you hear yourself say, I can't, pause and flip the script. Ask, how can I? How can I learn this skill? How can I get better at this? How can I find someone to guide me? That one question opens up a door that I can't slam shut. 3, turn failure into feedback. This one's huge. In a fixed mindset, failure feels personal. In a growth mindset, failure is information. It's instruction. It's the brain's way of saying, that didn't work, let's try another route. Start asking, what did I learn? What would I do differently next time? How did this grow me? Because when you normalize failure, you accelerate progress. 4, surround yourself with growth-minded people. Mindset is contagious. If you're around people who complain, blame, and shrink, that becomes your standard. But if you're around people who push themselves, support risk, and speak possibility, that rewires your environment. Want to grow faster? Surround yourself with people who remind you who you're capable of becoming. Here's the beautiful truth. You're not stuck because you lack ability. You're stuck because you haven't yet believed you can grow past this level. But your brain is ready. It's always listening. Every challenge is an invitation to upgrade. Let's talk about something that doesn't sound flashy or exciting, but secretly it's the engine behind every transformation you've ever seen. Repetition. Now I know we live in a world addicted to novelty. New hacks, new routines, new books, new platforms. But when it comes to rewiring your brain for lasting success, there's no shortcut around this one truth. Repetition isn't boring, it's brain training. It's how your brain learns, unlearns, and relearns. It's how belief becomes identity. It's how practice becomes performance. And it's how a single action becomes automatic. Let's break it down. Inside your brain, every thought, action, and habit is powered by a neural pathway, like a mental trail carved through a forest. The first time you think something new, it's like stepping into the brush. Hard to navigate, takes effort, but the more you walk that path, the more you repeat it, the clearer it gets. Eventually it becomes a road, then a highway, then a reflex. That's how success is wired, through repetition. Want confidence? You don't just decide to be confident once. You practice the thoughts, the posture, the presence over and over until confidence becomes normal. Want discipline? You don't wait for motivation. You show up daily, even when you don't feel like it, until showing up becomes natural. Because repetition isn't just about what you do, it's about what you become. Let me give you a real example. There was a young woman who wanted to change her self-worth story. She had grown up being told she was too loud, too sensitive, too much. So she shrank. She apologized for everything. She doubted her ideas before she even spoke them. One day she wrote a simple affirmation: I am allowed to take up space. At first it felt silly, foreign, like a lie. But she committed to repeating it every morning, out loud in the mirror. It felt awkward, then neutral, then powerful. One day she found herself in a meeting, speaking up confidently without overthinking. And in that moment, she realized the words weren't just something she said, they had become something she believed. That's what repetition does. It rewires your beliefs, it shapes your self-image, it alters your identity from the inside out. And here's the beautiful paradox. You don't repeat things because you're already confident or capable. You repeat them until you are. Let's talk about the science. When you repeat a thought or behavior, your brain strengthens the neural connections involved. This is called long-term potentiation. It's like pouring water into a dirt path every day. Eventually it becomes a channel, then a groove, then a trench. That's how habits form. That's how identity locks in. That's how you change your reality, by changing what you repeat. And this works both ways. If you constantly rehearse worry, comparison, or self-doubt, your brain gets better at it. If you constantly rehearse focus, gratitude, courage, your brain gets better at that. You become what you practice, consciously or unconsciously. So the question isn't, is repetition working in my life? The question is, what am I repeating? 1, repetition of thought. Start with a mental soundtrack. What are you saying to yourself every single day? If it's negative, unkind, or limiting, stop waiting for a breakthrough. Start building one with better internal repetition. Your brain believes the thoughts you feed it most often. 2, repetition of behavior. You don't become a writer by writing once. You don't become a leader by leading one meeting. You don't become fit by doing one workout. Behavior wires identity. Every time you take action, especially when it's hard, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. So even if the voice in your head isn't on board yet, let your behavior lead. 3, repetition of emotion. Yes, you can rehearse emotion. You can practice courage, practice joy, practice peace. How? By choosing to feel those emotions on purpose. Sit quietly, close your eyes. Remember a time you felt confident. Breathe it in, re-experience it, rehearse it. This is what elite performers do. They don't just repeat strategies, they repeat states. Because success isn't just what you do, it's how you feel while doing it. So let's stop chasing quick change and start trusting compound rewiring. Repeat the thoughts, repeat the actions, repeat the habits, even when it feels slow, especially when it feels boring, because repetition is the secret no one claps for, but it's the reason champions rise. So let me bring this home. You were not born with a fixed blueprint. You were born with a brain designed to evolve, to grow, to stretch, to rewire. And now you've got the keys in your hands. You've learned how awareness activates change, how to disrupt old patterns and choose new ones, how to harness the power of vision, how to shift from fear into full empowerment, how to step into a mindset that grows you, how to repeat what rewires you until it becomes who you are. This isn't about perfection. It's not about doing it all overnight. It's about intentional practice. day by day, thought by thought, action by action. Success isn't just something you achieve, it's something you train for. So I want to leave you with this. You don't need to wait to feel ready. You don't need permission to begin. And you don't need to believe the old stories your brain keeps playing. Because from this moment on, you have the power to recode your reality, to wake up tomorrow with a different focus, a different voice, a different level, not someday, not later, now. Rewire your brain and watch your life rise to meet it. Thank you.